The name Crime and Punishment sounds pretty self-explanatory, doesn't it? Well, this book is about a horrendous crime and the punishment that results, but the story is not as simple as it sounds. Crime and Punishment, written by the Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky, has its own powerful messages drawn from his life experiences in conflicted Russia that go beyond the actions in the story. Dostoevsky skillfully exposes issues with Russian society through Crime and Punishment by emphasizing the negative impacts of poverty on the nation and the conflict between Slavic and Western beliefs, through central focus on his main character Raskolnikov's life, Raskolnikov's experiment in living, symbolism in the characters, and character foils. The story of Crime and Punishment follows a young, impoverished student named Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov. He is struggling with debt and a conflict of his beliefs when he decides to turn from his Christian roots to follow European philosophies. In order to escape his debt, he murders his stingy landlady and her sister, following his own morality based on these Western worldviews. For the rest of the story, he is able to literally get away with murder. Soon, however, paranoia begins to set in, creeping into every corner of his mind. He's afraid that he'll be found out. Eventually, Raskolnikov admits that he murdered the two women, and he accepts his punishment in the end. In order to fully understand the themes at work in Crime and Punishment, the roots of these themes must be examined. These roots just so happen to be the life experiences and influences of the author, Fyodor Dostoevsky. He lived from 1821 to 1891 in the country of Russia during a very troubled time period in this nation. Russia was poverty-stricken, and the lower-class people lived in filth and destitution. Dostoevsky witnessed the struggles of the poor serfs of Russia firsthand, and he saw the negative impact of poverty. This was a source of inspiration for his first theme emphasizing the impact of poverty on people's lives. Furthermore, there was a worldviews conflict in Russia that had the Russian intellectual circles in turmoil. Two belief systems were competing with each other. First, the new Western philosophies introduced by Europeans, and second, the traditional Russian Orthodox beliefs. Westernizers were people who thought that Western principles could solve the problems that Russia was facing. They sought out to rationalize the issues of the nation by turning to democracy, utilitarianism, atheism, scientific social principles, and nihilist beliefs. Utilitarianism, atheism, and nihilism all reject God as a creator and devalue human life. Human happiness is also the founding principle for morality, and specifically in utilitarianism, that happiness for the individual can be overruled if it outweighs the happiness of the majority. Atheist beliefs also dictate that there are people that transcend law because they are extraordinary. Subjective reality and morality rules people's decisions in Western beliefs. On the other hand, many objected to these new ideas and sought out the answer for their problems in their traditional Christian practices and the values of the Slavic people of Russia. Those who followed their cultural roots were called Slavophiles, and they relied on their morals and faith to search for a solution to Russia's inner turmoil. Dostoevsky sympathized with tradition and sided with the Slavophile outlook. This impacted the second theme of worldview conflict highlighted in Crime and Punishment, where he sets out to prove Western beliefs are wrong. The themes about poverty and the worldview's conflict are sewn in the fabric of Dostoevsky's book. He emphasizes destitution and the negative effects it has on society. And he also shows the worldview conflicts of Russia and reveals which one he believes is right. What literary devices does he employ to highlight these themes? Well, Dostoevsky used many literary tools, but some of the more prominent ones are central focus, experiment in living, symbolic characters, and character foils. Let's start with central focus. As defined by Somerville's Poetics, central focus is the center of a whole arrangement or something that repeats itself at the center of each part of the whole arrangement. What is the central focus of this story? Dostoevsky's main character Raskolnikov, of course. Raskolnikov is poor and his surroundings are destitute, and by focusing on his main character's economic situation and surroundings, Dostoevsky highlights the theme of poverty and the negative impact it has on Raskolnikov's life. In addition, by focusing on Raskolnikov, Dostoevsky reveals that his character believes in Western philosophy. Raskolnikov sees all people are divided into ordinary and extraordinary people groups. The ordinary people live lives of strict obedience to the law, and the extraordinary people can forge new paths to obtain goals, even to the point of breaking the law. He says that The extraordinary man has a right to permit his conscience to step over certain obstacles, if it is absolutely necessary for the fulfillment of his idea, on which quite possibly the welfare of all mankind may depend. By using central focus, Dostoevsky has already highlighted his two themes of poverty and conflict of beliefs. Incidentally, the central focus on Raskolnikov exposes his experiment in living, which is another device that Dostoevsky uses to emphasize his theme of belief conflict. A character's experiment in living is the choice the character makes to act and live according to particular beliefs. Obviously, Raskolnikov's choice is to murder his landlady. But why is this important? Well, his landlady, Alonia Ivanovna, is a stupid, senseless, worthless, and decrepit old hag who is of no use to anybody and who actually does more harm than good. Because Raskolnikov believes in Western philosophy, he feels that it is best to act in accordance with the dictates of one's own conscience. Since she is doing more harm than good in society, Raskolnikov feels justified to murder her according to his belief that it is best to act with the welfare of all mankind in mind. Therefore, according to Raskolnikov's beliefs, his murder of the Ivanova sisters is justified by his beliefs in acting for all mankind in his personal morality. However, the experiment in living does not turn out well for Raskolnikov. His beliefs are rooted in naturalism and utilitarianism, which explain these worldview beliefs he is upholding by murdering the sisters. These philosophies are conflicted with his Slavic upbringing that promotes Russian Orthodox Christianity. Raskolnikov suffers anxiety, illness, and a conflict of conscience because of what he did. His experiment was based in beliefs that the author Dostoevsky believed were wrong, and by having Raskolnikov's experiment end in suffering, he makes his opinion on Western beliefs clear. Western beliefs are flawed and wrong. Another device employed by Dostoevsky is symbolism. Specifically, he uses characters to symbolically represent different themes. Firstly, Raskolnikov symbolically represents the schism between various ideas that divided Russian thinkers and writers in Dostoevsky's day, and these ideas were the Slavic beliefs and the Western beliefs. Raskolnikov's experiment in living demonstrates that Western worldviews are indeed flawed, and thus he is a symbol of these flaws that Dostoevsky saw. Lastly, Dostoevsky uses friends of Raskolnikov, the Marmeladov family, as symbols of poverty-filled lives. The father of this family is very poor, and he drowns his sorrows in excessive alcoholic drink. His family struggles so badly financially that his oldest daughter, Sonia, was forced to register herself as a prostitute to bring funds in for the family to live on. The family is the definition of destitute, and Dostoevsky uses them to symbolize the poor state of the lower class in Russia during his lifetime. The final device that Dostoevsky uses is character foil, and he uses them to contrast the differing Western and traditional worldview beliefs. A character foil in literature is simply a contrast between characters that show the differences between them, and in Crime and Punishment, Dostoevsky uses Raskolnikov and Sonia as foils. Raskolnikov, as aforementioned, is a symbol of Western philosophy. He believes strongly in these worldviews and they govern his actions, which are clearly negative. On the other hand, Sonia is a poor girl from a destitute family who earns a living as a prostitute, but she still is a Christian of strong faith in spite of her unfortunate situation. Her belief in God shows that she lives the life of a Slavic Christian. Dostoevsky uses her as a contrast to Raskolnikov to symbolize the good of Slavic beliefs and the error of Western philosophy. The author is bringing forward two themes through all of these devices: the negative effect of poverty and worldview conflict. He highlights the horrible impact poverty has on society, and he shows which side of a worldview conflict is correct, which would be Russian Christianity. Crime and Punishment is a painfully realistic story that shows the darkest elements of human nature. Nevertheless, the literary tools of central focus, experiment in living, symbolism, and foils empower and highlight Dostoevsky's theme of poverty and worldview conflict, creating an extraordinarily striking story that is just as unforgettable as an epic fairy tale.